Over the course of Science Odyssey Week, 5 women at different stages of their careers were interviewed to share their experiences in the pursuit of their career. Their stories were shared on the WISEST website. This recording was made on Friday, May 14th, 2021, as a wrap-up to the series where students could come and ask their questions to the panelists. We hope you're able to take something from this virtual panel. Enjoy! So to start our session, I do want to honor the land on which we are running this session from. Although we are gathering virtually, most of us are located on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional gathering place for diverse Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe, Inuit, and many others whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to influence our vibrant community. May we not forget to honor their connection to this region, and let us give thanks for the opportunity to live, work, and learn on their traditional homeland. I'm going to start us off by asking, how many of you have heard of WISEST before? Just by a thumbs up or a reaction. We've got Hannah and Fervone, which is great because you're with WISEST. Okay, Kieran. So a number of you haven't heard of WISEST, which is great. I get to talk to you a little bit about who we are. WISEST stands for Women in Scholarship, Engineering, Science, and Technology. It's a really long name, so we use WISEST as the acronym. And we are a unit that has been operating at the University of Alberta since 1982. We are committed to advancing diversity while empowering women in science, technology, engineering, and math. And we're often going to refer to that as STEM. Every year we host 2 conferences, one in February called Choices for grade 6 students. So it's grade 6 girls and gender nonconforming students, and one in November called our SET conference for high school girls and gender nonconforming students. Typically in an in-person year, we have our students come on campus and get to participate in a full day of really exciting hands-on STEM related activities, and they get some role models to interact with as well, and also get a good feel for what maybe campus life might look like. And then we also have our flagship program, the Summer Research Program, which we just recently actually shortlisted our students, and we've been doing the application process, but it's for grade 11 students to be placed in a lab on campus and get paid for doing that over the summer, to actually get to do research. So if you want to learn a little bit more about our programming, we've got a lot more. That's just our core programming. I'm going to drop a link in our chat box just to let you know. You can go there to find out a little bit more about what we do and what else we offer. All right. Now, without further ado, I do want to introduce Samiha. Samiha has recently graduated with a Bachelor of Science and with an honors in neuroscience degree at the University of Alberta. And literally that was just a few weeks ago, and has wasted no time by jumping into her second undergraduate degree, a Bachelor of Arts in History at Queen's University. You may have seen Samiha's face before, as we recognized her during our National Volunteer Week for her dedication to WISEST's programs, but you may have also seen her at one of our conferences or maybe even one of our STEM mentoring panels 3 years ago. During this past year, Samiha joined the first cohort of our WISEST Youth Council, and all the content you engaged with during Science Odyssey Week, so all those profiles and interviews that were conducted, Samiha did that. It was a result of her project with the Youth Council. So I will be co-facilitating this panel with Samiha, but I'll hand things over to Samiha now to tell you a bit more about herself and to briefly introduce our panelists.
Hi, thank you so much, Helen. She's great. You can see me kind of disappearing into the background a little bit, so let that not bother you. So my name is Samiha, and as Helen said, I just graduated with a BSc in Honors Neuroscience from U of A. And yes, I am in my first week of my BA in History from Queen's University. It's online, so I'm not leaving Edmonton. I'm also in the process of applying to medical school, and because that takes a year, I didn't want to waste any time. And I also recently accepted a job with Alberta Health Services in their policy research and development sector. So that's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be super busy. Um, so as she said, this is part of my WISEST Youth Council project. WISEST Youth Council is a new initiative that was started in September 2020, and I'm one of the pioneering members. I'm actually the oldest one there. I've aged out, but I will be returning as a senior mentor. So what it does is it wants to represent individuals between the ages of 15 and 20 to make sure that WISEST really has a grasp on all the different issues that face this age group, because this is the biggest demographic that WISEST targets. And I've had wonderful council members who have done their own projects, and thankfully this has turned into a legacy project mine. So this will hopefully be repeating every year with a different group of amazing people that everyone gets to meet and hear from. So I will move on to introducing them. So first off, we have Sejutee. Just a disclaimer, she is my sister. She is upstairs right now and I'm in the basement. So she's finishing up grade 10 at Sheppard High School, and she is our youngest feature on this project. And so I will let her speak about her herself a little bit and expand a little bit on some of the stuff that you read in the post, hopefully. Sejutee.
Hi, I'm Studeni, and like my sister said, I'm in grade 10 at Sheppard High School, and I'm on this panel because I did a little sciencey thing last year. In grade 9, I won a competition with SSEP, which is like the Student Space Experiment Program or something like that. And then I got to work with NASA, and I sent an experiment to the International Space Station about brine shrimp to see what the effects of microgravity would be on the early development of brine shrimp for a potential primary and secondary food source. Because I really like sustainability and all that stuff. And it was sent into space this January. Um, so I'm here to talk a little bit about integrity and what that looks like to me, and any advice I have on integrity for our question askers. And yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. So next up we have, I'm just going to go in the order that the list, that the features were posted. Next we have Jennifer, and she is going into her third year of BSc Mechanical Engineering with co-op at the University of Alberta. And her theme is versatility. So take it away, Jennifer. Jennifer, I think you need to unmute. Sorry.
Sorry. Okay. I'm Jennifer. My pronouns are she and her. As you might have read in my interview, it wasn't always a clear path to get into engineering. I've always liked math and science a little more than the humanities, but I was still really unsure. Right now, I'm still working on my engineering degree, and I make sure to experience a lot of different areas like space satellites and hyperloops, just so I can get a lot of versatile skills that I could use in my career, regardless of what it might be. One of my favorite experiences was some work I did last semester with a professor where we were researching to develop a material that could be useful for space robotics. Right now, it's really unstudied, and it was my first time doing research, but it was a lot of fun reading all the papers and doing all the CAD modeling. And yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's the first time I've ever heard anyone say it's fun to read research papers, but wow, I don't like it. It's way too much work. All right, so next up we have Makenna, who is also going into her third year of mechanical engineering at the U of A with co-op. And her theme was a little fun to come up with Perseverance, because you may or may not know that was the latest, what was it, the rover that landed on Mars. And I think we had our interview the day after that happened. And so it was a fun little connection because she's going to be our future astronaut. So take it away, Makenna.
Hi, I'm Makenna, and I'm an aspiring astronaut. It's always been my childhood dream, and that's why I wanted to represent perseverance on this panel, because even through all of the doubting and people questioning a big dream, as long as you set your goal high and you stick to it, I really think anything is possible. Right now, I'm in mechanical engineering, but I'm on my work term right now, and I'm working at a company called Forward Robotics. They design drones, which is kind of cool because of the Ingenuity drone mission going on Mars right now. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And I'm really happy to be here and share my perspective and help represent women and minorities in STEM.
Thank you for that. Next up, we have Rachel Toe, who I also know personally from before this panel. I've known her for 6 years now. She is one of the most hardworking person I know and an awesome friend. So Rachel, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, so my name is Rachel. I just finished my final year of pharmacy school, so I graduated with the Doctor of Pharmacy. Right now I'm kind of in the middle of preparing for my board exam at the end of the month, so kind of a little bit stressed for that, but I'm getting there. So I guess a quick synopsis of what my interview was about. My interview was centered around determination, and it was talking about working hard, making the most of every opportunity, and chasing after what I wanted, or in the case of myself, what I thought I wanted, but also the fine balance of that mentality with burnout and always feeling like I wasn't doing enough.
All right, thank you, Rachel. And I totally can relate to that, as I'm sure many of you can, always feeling like you're not doing enough. All right, so next up we have Danielle, who I met through my feeling of not doing enough. So I went and became a mentor with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and she was the coordinator and such a lovely person. We've met more than once since, and she's now a great friend. And here's Danielle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle, and my pronouns are she, her. I am the senior on this panel, and I'm so in awe of all of the other ladies and all of their accomplishments. Samiha had asked me to be a part of this as kind of under the title of vulnerability, and listening to just what Rachel was saying, the vulnerability a year ago would have felt like my weakness. And I would say that after some time away and some amazing therapy, learning how to make vulnerability my strength and realizing that my story just continues to evolve, right? Things that I thought were going to be the highest highs of my life, were then eclipsed by other things that I hadn't even had in my mind. So that's kind of where I come in, and I'm very excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all of that, ladies. And you're just so inspirational. I know some of you are younger than me, some of you are older, but I just feel like I feel so lucky to be amongst you. And then that the people that I've met, new people that I met through this project, thank you so much for signing up, letting me interview you. It was great. And now we can open up the floor for questions if that's good. No one else has anything. Okay, great. So like Helen said, you could raise your hand if you have a question, or if you want to type it in the chat box, it's totally fine. And then we'll go from there.
I think maybe, Hannah's got a question.
Go on.
Hi, everybody. My question is, what are some of the high school programs that all of you were involved in?
Wow, that's a great question. Um, okay, I guess Sejutee is in high school, so let's start with her and then we'll work our way up.
So because of the pandemic, a lot of things are canceled, but sorry, question for Sofia, does it have to be like STEM related or can it just be like any programs?
It can be
Yeah.
any programs. Yeah.
Okay. Any programs. Okay. So right now I'm in Interact, which is like a part of Rotary, the Rotary Club and Rotary International. And I think it's a really good way to make sure I'm well-rounded. When I'm doing all of this like sciencey stuff, I can do a little bit more like humanities stuff and help out in the community. And then as well, I'm in debate club and I just finished HSMAN Model UN where I was China in the Socium committee and um, doing that really helps me with my public speaking as I continue to work on that because it can be improved and my writing skills, which is to me pretty essential in a lot of sciencey things because when I was doing my project, I had to write a proposal and then like a 9-page experiment rundown. So I feel like a lot of the clubs I'm in aren't necessarily science based, but they help me get skills for science. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So she brought up a good point of having versatile skills. So let's see if Jennifer has to say anything about that.
Hi. In high school, I did some volunteering that wasn't like directly with the school. So I coached soccer for a few years just because it's fun to hang out with kids and have like sort of a leadership role. I've also been volunteering with the city of Edmonton for maybe 6 years, just doing some events across the city, the zoo, some other events. At school specifically, I was an ambassador for this big basketball tournament. Basically, teams from even out of the country come and you just show them around and help out. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any of the other panelists want to go ahead?
I think I can speak a little bit to something I did in high school. I don't know if it's still running. There was this thing called the interdisciplinary science competition. It was like a one day event, and what happened was you would sign up with a friend. I think it was open to grade 11s and grade 12s. And it was like a one-day competition at the U of A campus, and you would just go through a whole bunch of different activities. It was a mix of chemistry, bio, physics, and I think there was a little bit of computer science in there, and you got the chance to work in a variety of different labs just to get experience what each discipline does.
Yeah, I think it does still exist. The format might have changed a little bit, but for COVID, I feel like everything has been kind of canceled for the past year anyway. Yeah, but hopefully everyone getting the vaccine will be returning to normal this September. Fingers crossed. And anyone else want to take a stab? Yeah, go ahead.
I kind of relate to Sejutee in the way that a lot of the things I did in high school, they didn't really directly relate to STEM, I guess. Like I was very into sports, for example, but I found that the mental toughness and the perseverance that I learned, being on a team and also working towards a goal really helped me where I am now. So I think if you're in high school, it's a really great opportunity to just diversify yourself in different activities because it really does make you a well-rounded person. And the coolest thing now is like a lot of the clubs that I've taken part in during my university, I found a lot of the skills that I developed in high school through things like leadership and sports really helped me in STEM and to kind of have that personality of like being able to work with people, which is just as essential as academic skills. So, and also like of course, there's a lot of different opportunities if you love space, for example, like me. Right now, I'm working for SEDS, and they have a lot of great opportunities for people, students in space that want to get involved. So I think that there's always opportunities for you, no matter how young you are. And yeah, just see what's out there, I guess, and try new things.
Wonderful, thank you. If anyone is confused about what she's talking about, if you go to the post, Makenna's post, there are mentions and like specific spellings of the project she was talking about. So I feel like if that's something you're interested in, you can look that up and Google that and see if you want to get involved. So anyone else, or shall we move on?
I wanted to jump in here. So I think what's really great is that everyone's sharing a lot of their opportunities that that they were a part of that weren't STEM related. And I think, you know, what Makenna said really resonates with me is that a lot of these opportunities help make you a well-rounded person and bring out a lot of skills like leadership. That's really, really important for when you take on larger opportunities in your undergrad. What's also really great is Google. Google is a great way for you to just find out what's out there, right? Even for WISEST, we've been here since 1982, but we've got some really great programs that some people don't know about. A Google search will yield some really great local opportunities for you if you are interested in a very specific thing like space. As Makenna said, you know, maybe all it takes is just like, what can a high school student do who's interested in space? Like, are there any space clubs or anything like that? So thankfully, we've got internet on our side to help us out.
Exactly. A lot of the stuff that I got involved in was from like just hours of kind of like searching, you know, instead of going on Instagram, maybe. All right. Danielle, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think that it sounds like a lot of the people on the panel are people that have leadership skills and, you know, some academic skills and have that drive to be well-rounded. And I think it's important to note that sometimes different opportunities or clubs or programs can feel almost a little bit intimidating if that imposter syndrome, feeling like I'm not the right fit for this, or I'm gonna, be the worst at this. And so I would say that from my perspective, the vulnerability perspective, anytime you can get any even glimpse at something, right? You throw spaghetti at the wall, you see what sticks. When I was working in the Boys and Girls Clubs, we would bring in Let's Talk Science would come in, and who knows, right, what that could open up for some kiddos who had never, thought about science as a possibility. So I would say, even if it's not as big as a full program, looking for opportunities just to immerse yourself in without feeling like you have to do it 100% big.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Danielle. So if you are not kind of looking at the chat box, there has been a link that's posted where WISEST lists a bunch of opportunities that you can go and explore if you need a starting point. And great, and we'll move on to any other questions. You can ask anything. All right, so I have a question for you guys. You guys all seem so busy, right? And I'm also busy, but I still do have a hard time having that balance of like being busy, doing enough, and then also taking care of myself and having that work-life balance. So how do you guys do it? And do you have any tips maybe I can follow too? And just anyone shout out your answer.
I can start on this one because I feel like it really is where I'm coming from. I think that work-life balance has almost become like a buzzword, and it's like work-life balance means that you can fit absolutely everything in and do it okay. And I think that is not what work-life balance should be. I am so grateful that I took time away from work to take a step back and kind of take inventory of everything that I had going on in my life, what was actually making me happy, and what stuff was put in there because I felt like I should do that, or it would, enhance the way other people saw me, and that would never, I think I used the analogy with Samiha when I was talking to you about this, of the bucket. If there's a hole in your own personal bucket, that you're trying to fill by patching it with stuff and doing more, it will never be full, because it's fleeting, and that will just, it might be good for a moment, but then suddenly you have to find something new to do. And so really taking a step back and thinking what makes me happy, and how to find the actual balance of, time for yourself, what you really like doing, and what's not for other people. I think that that has changed for me, like everything for me. I no longer am looking for external validation. It's like, I'm happy with me. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And thank you, Danielle. Also, thank you for recommending Dr. Gina Wong. She's great. So that was the that was the therapist that we were talking about. And yeah, it's been great. And you know what, just talking to someone else, like very casually, about what you're going through can lead to you having extra support. So I think it's very important that we keep an open mind to, talking to others about that. And you talked about choosing things and saying no to things that don't truly make you happy. And that's something Rachel has talked about in her post, where there was a point, or I guess maybe still, she has a little bit of a hard time saying no to things because she just wants to experience everything. So how do you deal with that, Rachel?
Yeah, so in terms of that, like, I am definitely guilty of just wanting to get involved in anything and everything. I have this weird fear of missing out on just opportunities. One of the things that really helped was definitely that support, finding someone to talk to about like what I'm going through. And one of the other things was really prioritizing and giving a push and pull for what kind of activities do I think are really important to me right now. Some of the things that I did outside of school, like my volunteering, it was things that I still really wanted to do because I thought that it was valuable. But at the same time, it's kind of trying to see if I can find a better balance instead of doing it like say every other day or like every single week. Would I be able to cut back on that and try to allocate my time to something else? Like maybe it could just be taking a day for myself, or trying to taking a day for myself, or trying to allocate my time to something else that I would enjoy, as opposed to just trying to do everything that would just be for my career for everything else. Because yeah, like there's so much time to be focusing on your career, but then it's always about trying to remember to find a good balance and not burn yourself out at the same time. So I just saw a question. Samia, do you want me to introduce one, or keep going?
Sure. So
pass it up together?
Hannah asked, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? So if you want to continue with that, that's totally fine.
Okay. So in terms of the imposter syndrome, like I still struggle with this. Like I got on this panel this morning, I was listening to everybody's accomplishments, and I could feel it creeping up. Something that one of our panelists said, Danielle, was that everyone seems to have sent something to space. I'm like, I haven't sent anything to space either. So, like one of the things, so one of the things I was thinking about is looking at how far you've come. Like if you look back on all the things you've accomplished and everything that you've done leading up until this point, you're gonna realize that you're just like, you've come so far and you've accomplished so much, and the grass will always seem greener on the other side. But then when you look at yourself, you're just as accomplished as people probably think you're just as accomplished as you think of them.
Yes, that's a really important thing to understand. Sejutee?
I just want to touch on something that Danielle said about doing things. It was kind of like quality versus quantity, and also what Rachel said about imposter syndrome. I think that as I got into high school, I really started looking at the things I was doing not as, oh, what is my teacher for this gonna think about me if I stop doing this? What is my violin teacher gonna think if I stop doing this? And I think the pandemic has really helped me like put everything into perspective, which took me a while to realize because I really hate this pandemic, as everyone else will agree. I kind of feel like my high school experience has been a little bit tampered with, but it's helped me to realize that you should do the things you want to do because you want to do it. It's better to do a few things what in a way that you think is right and that you think is good, and to the best of your ability to that you want to give, like the amount of effort you want to give, it should be up to you, instead of doing like a bunch of things and like doing it maybe not as to the best of your ability, or just doing it so like you can check it off your list, like, yep, I did this event, I did this project, it's going to be on, I could put it on my resume, people are going to think I did this, but you should start looking at it as how much value is this going to give me, instead of how much value do other people think this is going to give me. And with the imposter syndrome, I read this post. It was like, we need to stop normalizing completing everything by 20, because I'm 16 right now, and I feel like, and for a very long time I felt like I have to do all of these things by the time I'm in my 20s, because when I hit 30 I'm going to be old and my life is going to be gone and blah blah blah, which is not true. Because when you're 20 you should just like chill, I guess, like not do work. You should still like have that drive to do what you want to do, but don't feel overwhelmed with like accomplishing everything you want to do. Like Makenna wants to be an astronaut, um but I don't think she's gonna give up on her dream because she's not an astronaut by the time she's 23, right? She's gonna like keep working towards it. So if you're dealing with imposter syndrome, just remember, after 20 there's 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. You just like relax a little bit. It's hard for, I think everyone else on this panel can agree, it's kind of hard to realize that sometimes, because I kind of overschedule myself too, just feeling like I have to do everything. Like I have a leadership seminar tomorrow and I don't want to do it because I want to sleep in, but I signed up for it like a month ago, and like my Rotary Club already registered me for it, so I'm gonna do it anyway. But next time I might be like, do I have to do this? Like, if I don't want to do it, I'm not gonna do it. I don't really care what my Rotary Club thinks is gonna bring to me.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that, Sejutee. And it's true. She didn't know I was doing my second degree right away. So last night she's like, "Are you crazy?" Because she didn't know that I had signed up for it. I was like, "I have homework." She's like, "Wait, no, you just graduated." I'm like, "No, this is my second degree." She's like, "Are you crazy? Why do you hate yourself?" So that is so her. Makenna, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, it's funny talking about like being in your 20s, because like I just turned 20, and I can totally agree. Like I feel like my life is, all these doors have just opened for me and they continue to open. So I don't think it's ever too late or too early to start something, as long as you do it. And on to like the imposter syndrome thing. One thing that I learned to do is, a lot of times I do feel out of place, or like I'm not as good as the people around me. And that can feel discouraging. But to me, I kind of see it as a challenge, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable, I think, because that's where real growth comes. If you're always in your comfort zone, how will you grow and challenge yourself? So when you're surrounded by people that are successful, that's a great opportunity to learn from them. And that's what I've done, like in my sports, taking on, like if I walk into a gym and I'm like a white belt and everyone else is a black belt, then I'm gonna get beat up for sure, but I'll definitely learn new techniques and stuff. And it's the same thing in academics and clubs. You go there, you'll be new, you'll feel uncomfortable, like you don't fit in, but with hard work and asking questions, because usually people love to share what they've learned, you can grow, and you're not an imposter at all. You're just someone hoping to learn something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
So go on.
Sorry, can I jump in on that? Just because it's so much about what I think my interview was about, and the vulnerability piece. I'm not a scientist, so I can't speak to the psychology of imposter syndrome, but I think that especially for highly motivated people who are used to checking off boxes, knowing that you've succeeded at something, the imposter syndrome, it's like you'll never be able to say, I am that person. You can't check all of the boxes of somebody else. And so it would be hard to, it's hard to be around people and think like, oh, they've already done this. Like maybe I just haven't sent something to space yet because I haven't been in the right courses, right? Who knows? That might be the only thing holding me back. And so I think it's important to just realize that every opportunity, every situation, you don't know what is going to end up somewhere. And even for everyone on this panel, in 10 years, how different your path might be. I mean, I am double Sejutee's age and some. And so I can tell you that, like, even that, I think that sometimes where it's like, well, I better get this done in my 30s, or else I'll be old and not able to do anything. But it's like, well, 40 is not too far away. And I feel like I could still do stuff at 40 and I can still do stuff at 50, and people do lots of stuff. So, who knows, maybe by 50, I'll have something in space as well. And we can all celebrate. But yeah, I just think that that vulnerability piece, and just knowing that this panel today could mean something in 5 years, tomorrow, like you never know what it will bring.
Exactly, right? That seizing those opportunities and the connections. Go on, Jennifer.
Well, just adding on to the imposter syndrome, I feel like a lot of probably all of us experience it because we're always surrounded by so many great people doing great things. Like Makenna wants to be an astronaut. Sejutee sent something to space when she was in junior high, and it's crazy. But I feel like we just need to stop comparing ourselves because we see everyone's highlights and we just think it's their whole life. You don't show your downfalls and all the bad things that happened before you got to that point. And I think it's important to just know that and be aware of that and stop comparing yourself. Like, I did not send something into space in junior high because it just didn't happen. And that's okay. And yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Sejutee?
I think what Jennifer said about people not showing their downfalls is something that I kind of talked about in my interview when it came to like social media, and like kids my age. They just sometimes I go on Instagram and I'm just like, this person has a house by the time they're 21, they're living in a mansion, they have 4 kids, and their husband's a basketball player, and they're traveling the world, and I'm gonna turn 21 in 5 years, and I'm probably still going to be living with my parents. Like, what is wrong with me? But then you got to remember that like they might not show the struggles they have with that, or they might not show how they got there, and how they got there might not be the same story as how you're going to get to your goals, right? So a lot of that is with what I talked about with integrity and being true to yourself. And that's not always possible because we're human and we see other people and we want to be like them, and we feel overwhelmed, like, why aren't we like them? Not just success wise, but just, I don't know, maybe happiness wise, or just other accomplishments wise. So for anyone who's like my age or older or younger, um, first of all, just delete Instagram for a few days. I literally delete Instagram every single week, and then I download it again because I'm 16, and then I deleted it again. But just remember that people are always going to show um, all the amazing parts of their life. So you can't compare that to all the not so amazing parts of your life.
Exactly. I'm 21 and I live with my parents, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. So I had a question now, building on to imposter syndrome. We've talked about imposter syndrome in terms of comparing with people who are like what we think are objectively better in terms of the experience. But a big part of WISEST, and a big part of why I'm doing this panel with you wonderful ladies, is that STEM tends to be a male dominated field. So women in STEM, and especially in certain niche corners of STEM, tend to feel imposter syndrome because of that gender disparity that exists there. So does anyone have any ideas on what that feels like, how they've combated with it? I know Jennifer touched quite a bit on that in her interview and her post, so I think if she wants to, she should go first and talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a 5 foot tall little girl and I have no construction experience. I've never used a drill. And I'm in mechanical engineering where the whole point is big machines and big tools. And I'm applying to jobs right now. and they're all asking about construction experience, which caters towards men. No job will ever hire me for construction because they start off with, can you lift 50 pounds? I'm only 30 pounds more than that. I can't lift 50 pounds. And I just have to make sure. The thing with versatility is I know mechanical is all about machines, but there's other things you can do. And even then, being a woman, you shouldn't take that and then just avoid all those opportunities. Because in a lot of cases, you can make yourself, like if I became a bodybuilder or if I started lifting weights, I could also apply to those jobs and I could just be alongside all those men and do the same thing because we're all capable of it. And I just think it's important not to just ignore any opportunities that cater towards men. Because even if they think they don't want you, if you show them what you're capable of, then you should get the job too.
Perfect. Anyone else have any thoughts?
I just wanted to add to what Jennifer was saying, because I read something somewhere where men are more likely to apply for jobs even if they don't have all of the qualifications. And whereas women will often look and say like, well, I don't have that. I can't lift 50 pounds. So I guess I won't have a chance to get it. And so sometimes I try to put on, my man hat and remember like, I'm just going to go for it. The worst that they're going to say is no. The worst that they're going to say is like, you didn't get it. And okay, I move on. And I learn from it. So I've even stopped putting sorries in emails. So I think you just sometimes have to remember, like, put on that attitude of, like shove imposter syndrome away and just say like, well, I'll try for it. And if they want to tell me that it's because I can't lift 50 pounds, like, well, then they can tell me that.
Exactly. Being aware of it lets you get ahead of it, If you have imposter syndrome, you have it, then you can push past that. That's how I feel like.
Hi, thanks everybody for all the things that you've had to say. I was just wondering if some of the panelists would like to share about what inspired them to pursue STEM initially, or did you have an experience or a moment, a mentor that just gave it an aha moment for you?
Sure. Just anyone want to start with that? What inspired you to get into STEM?
Sure. I guess
Makenna?
I can start because I can kind of talk about where my dream came from to go to space. So when I was a little girl, my dad and we used to always like sit on our balcony and we'd have our little yogurt cups and we'd eat it and look at the stars. And I was just, I looked at them and I was like, oh my God, I was at a loss for words really as a kid. And I have a really adventurous spirit. So I really wanted to adventure past the stars. And it was a tradition that me and my dad did like for a long time whenever we were camping. And even now, like I remember we would always look for the International Space Station overhead. And I'd be like, oh, how do I get up there? And he would always say, McKenna, there's so many different ways that you can get up there. And that's why I chose mechanical engineering, because I wanted to make things and build things and, a rocket that I can adventure on eventually. So I guess my inspiration was really just being curious. And I was really lucky to have friends and family that supported me, especially my dad. Like, he never doubted when I told him I wanted to be an astronaut. He didn't ever laugh in my face, which is really important. So I think, just being curious for me was really what inspired me into the STEM field, because STEM is all about creating and finding new things that haven't been invented yet, I guess.
Thank you so much for that.
Just adding on,
Jennifer?
My dad's an engineer and he loves talking about it. He loves his job. Like the 9 to 5 isn't something he dreads. It's his favorite thing. And then from like when I was really young, like McKenna, I was really curious about everything. My dad was out here talking about atoms when I was like in kindergarten. So by grade 3, we had to do a little science project just about some question. And instead of asking like, where do the birds go in the winter? I asked, if atoms make up everything, what makes up atoms? And I was 8. And then since then, I've always just been really curious and I like to learn. And I also don't have a direct passion like Makenna. Like, I don't have a specific goal in mind. So STEM gives you the ability to do anything. Like, there's so many different things you could do with a degree. You could do the scientist and the research, you could design things, you could even get it with a business degree. There's a lot of jobs that utilize like a combination of business and some sort of STEM degree. And yeah, this just goes along with the versatility thing.
Thank you. I know Rachel has a very interesting path to where she ended up today. So would you like to tell us about that?
Sure. So I guess I'll do a quick breakdown from the end of my interview. So I originally wanted to go into engineering, not because I wanted to, but because someone told me that I couldn't and that I couldn't be good at it. So I spent pretty much from grade 6 all the way to the end of high school determined to prove them wrong. And then by the time I got to high school, I actually didn't know what I was going to do in university because I talked to my mom and she was saying that, and we decided that, like, I don't know, I wasn't much for the physics aspect. And talking to my mom, I don't think I would have enjoyed engineering. So I ended up just signing up for this internship. It was called Careers Next Generation. They just kind of connected us with different kind of for me, it was a recreational therapist just for a summer job. And there I got the chance to shadow a pharmacist. And I really liked the work that they did. I talked to her and her story seemed a lot like mine, where I was just looking at what was I good at, what did I enjoy, and it was like a lot of the chemistry, the biology, but I wasn't too keen on the physics end. So then that's how I ended up in pharmacy instead. And I have no regrets about going into pharmacy. I absolutely love it.
Wonderful. A lot of us are forced into a career because our parents want us to. Rachel did the exact opposite. Well done. All right. Anyone else have anything else to say, or should we move on to the next question? Okay, one more question. Helen, do you want to take this one?
I think one of the things that I really appreciated about all the stories that each of you have put out is how you talked about challenges, overcoming those challenges. And I think a number of you have alluded to getting the right attitude, having the right attitude, and setting yourself up to that point where you're like, I can do this. Do you have anything that you do specifically to get yourself psyched up for something, to say, hey, someone is talking me down and they don't believe that I can do what I know I can do? How do you assert yourself in those situations, and how do you get yourself in the right mindset?
I guess I can speak to that. For me, one of the biggest things is having resilience, I guess. But another thing with resilience, I think, is being okay with failing sometimes, because when you put yourself out there or you try something new, sometimes it doesn't always go your way, and I think that's okay. Like we were talking about before, how we don't really talk about our failures enough. It's true that we kind of live in a society where people don't really talk about the challenges they faced or the failures they faced, but really that's how you get to where you want to be, right? So I think for me, I'm okay with failing sometimes because I know I'm just going to get right back up again. So knowing that and knowing you're not going to die, you'll be okay, is really important for all of us to learn, I think, especially as you pursue your career. Sometimes it's not going to go your way, like Rachel said, but you get back up, you find a new path, and as long as you're determined to keep getting back up, there's always something to learn.
I think that's a great answer. And actually, since we only have a few moments left, I'll leave this up to the panelists to answer. What would you tell your younger self if you had the chance to go back in time and say, I wish I knew this one thing? What would you tell your younger self? I think I love hearing these types of advice. So I'll leave it up to the panelists to answer.
I can start as the oldest one here, like talking directly to Sejutee here as my younger self. Yeah, I wanted to just add to what you were saying with the question before. Like the opportunities are, sorry, I've lost my train of thought completely. I was thinking about Sejutee and now I've lost it. But what was the question before?
The question before was, how do you psych yourself up?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes.
Yes. So, and it relates to what I would do or what I would tell my younger self. So I would say that when I was younger, my fear of doing poorly, like just with making that mistake, I probably would have just logged out, like, okay, bye. I messed up. So sorry about that. I'm gone. Now I'm a lot more able to take those things and laugh them off and be like, well, I screwed it up, but that's okay. One thing that I've done is I was never really into like phrases, affirmations, but that was something that I started doing with my therapist. And I would say that it actually is kind of nice. I have it on my Apple Watch. And so it's like right now it says, I validate my feelings. And it's like, yeah, I do validate my own feelings. And so that's been something that's been really awesome for me. But basically, you will go through so many ups and downs, and it's easy to doubt yourself, and that is almost even part of the journey. And so I think that sometimes when you're so successful when you're younger, and then you start having to face some adversity when you're not ready for it, that almost makes it the fall harder. And so I would say the attitude that I hear from the other panelists is incredible. And I hope that they continue to have that resiliency and strength within themselves, that no matter what, you could be at the very top of your game. And if you come down, it doesn't matter. You can still go back up. So I hope that that's something that's always with them.
Adding on to that, if I could talk to my younger self, I tell myself to go outside my comfort zone more often. Because I feel like normally I only put myself in situations that I'm almost 100% sure I'll be successful in. If I don't know it beforehand, like if I have no experience, then I'm always scared of, well, failure. But now I'm getting a little better. Like all the clubs I joined with the satellites and the hyperloops, I had no experience before, and it's nice to treat it as a learning opportunity rather than like potential failures. And then I have this fun. See, my friend got me this. It's probably backwards, but it just says, "I'm a woman in STEM Bunsen burner." And I feel like it's just a good reminder that even if you fail, we're still here. There's so many opportunities that are waiting for us.
Can I go? To my younger self, I would say a couple things. First of all, be true to yourself. I've said this a lot of times in my interview, but honestly, be true to yourself. Do what works for you, even though it can be discouraging sometimes. Like, for example, I'm doing online school right now and I'm doing Math 20 IB, and like all my friends, they like FaceTime each other during tests and they cheat. And like, that's not something I personally would do. If them doing that, it doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make them like, it doesn't make, like people do what works for them. And yeah, it doesn't make them a bad person, and it doesn't like make them any less of a student. But I personally, but sometimes just like, why am I like doing all this extra stuff when I can just join the FaceTime call and I can get all the answers. But I'm just like, that personally would not make me feel like I earned my grade. And I get guilty really easily, which is like I do the littlest thing. Like I'll forget to say thank you to someone and I'll feel guilty. So I'm like, if I do this, I don't think that will personally sit right with me, because them cheating, it does not mean that they're not going to be unsuccessful in the future. They're fine with it, but if I was to do that, it would always be in the back of my mind. So again, do what works for you. If that works for them, just crying and trying to watch YouTube videos to learn what's on the test the day before works for me. So, and also, this is a thing, it doesn't really make sense, but I kind of came up with it. I would tell myself in grade 7, don't be the doormat, be the door. So, if that makes any sense, just like, be confident in yourself. You're fine. You're gonna be fine. Um, Things work themselves out, and you're 12, like you have time to figure everything out. Yeah.
I guess I have a quick thing for what I would tell my younger self. It's a little funny actually, because with a bit of the rat race that I was kind of running throughout junior high and high school and even into university, remember to breathe. Like, that's one of the things I definitely forgot. There was something that I came across a couple of years ago. It's remember to get lots of sunshine and water. You're basically a houseplant with complicated emotions. And that's made all the difference. I always send it to all my friends when they're super stressed during exams, and it makes all the difference.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. We are at time here, so I did want to wrap up the call and say that thank you so much for joining our call today, and thank you to all of our panelists who have taken time out of their really busy schedules to come and share their lived experiences with everybody. This recording will be made available on our YouTube channel. Whenever I get a chance to edit everything and string it together and upload it, hopefully in the next week. But I will be dropping a link to our feedback survey in the chat box. And if you complete it, you will be entered in to win a WISEST themed prize pack. So go ahead, fill that out. I will be sending out an email that also has all of that information, including some of the links.
Anyone else seeing her frozen?
Oh.
Yeah, okay, not just me. All right, I guess I'll take over. Yes, so please wait, Helen, are you Helen?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. I don't know where I got frozen, sorry. But basically just fill out the feedback survey and you will be entered in to win a WISEST theme prize pack. Did you hear that? Okay, and I'll also be sending out an email with all of those details in there as well. So if you don't get it from the call, you can get it from the email. But other than that, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, everyone,
Yeah,
for allowing me this opportunity to kind of put your story out there. And thank you so much for going through that whole long process. And I feel so honored to be among such incredible women, honestly. And all of you are now my friends, and I got more friends now. Yay. And I'm so happy. So thank you for giving us your time and your wisdom. And I and Helen and WISEST wish you all the best in everything that you do. And hopefully you all have a great and safe summer.